Hello, I am delighted because A Life for a Life is now out and available in audiobook, ebook and paperback. So if you haven't already read the first two in this series, An Eye for an Eye and A Cut for a Cut, can I recommend you do that just before you pick this one up? It does work as a standalone, but it's a lot better if you've read the other two before this, and I believe they're on offer at the moment. So they're at a bargain price of about 99 pence, I think, if you have a quick look online. I thought if you haven't read it, maybe you'd just like to hear the beginning, the prologue. So, without further ado, A Life for a Life, Book 3 in the Kate Young series, the prologue. Ben lifted his face to the rear-view mirror and shouted, "Oi, if you two don't pack it in immediately, I'll pull over and shove you both in the roof carrier box for the rest of the trip." The squabbling siblings stopped arguing immediately, unable to see the twinkle in his eye. Lisa, in the passenger seat, threw him a wink. He returned a quick smile. "Getting into practice for when ours plays up?" she asked, placing a hand on her belly, which strained against the seatbelt. "No need. Ours is going to be perfectly behaved, not like Rowena's brood." The woman behind him barked a laugh. "Good luck with that. You wait. One Sprog might be okay, but it'll be a different story once you've got 4 of them. They'll be exactly like this bunch, noisy, demanding, and never listen to a word you say." "Mum?" Kathleen, sandwiched between her mother and younger brother Archie, had inherited the same cheerful round face as her mother and uncle. "That's not fair. I listen to you." "Okay, you and Grace sometimes listen to me, but your brothers definitely don't." "That's 'cause they're boys," she replied with an indifferent shrug. "Uncle Ben, is your baby going to be a boy or a girl?" Ben didn't answer. Although he and Lisa knew they were expecting a boy, they didn't want to spoil the surprise for any of the family. "We don't know," said Lisa evenly. "I hope it's a girl," replied Kathleen, her attention swiftly turning to her mobile. Traffic was heavy, and Ben was mindful of the fact that they'd left home later than intended to reach the airport in time. He also hadn't factored in the impromptu stop to refuel the MPV and half of the kids taking off to shop to stock up on sweets for their long journey. He hadn't seen his sister, nephews and nieces in almost 2 years, and they'd made the most of the last 10 days, visiting as much of the area as possible. Once their baby was born, he and Lisa would make the trip to Canada to visit them. They'd even talked about emigrating there themselves. It would be great to live close to his sister. He and Rowena had always got along well, and it would be nice for their baby to grow up with his extended family nearby. "Oh, look! McDonald's! Uncle Ben, can we stop?" The small voice at the back of the car came from 5-year-old Grace, who was cuddling a soft toy unicorn with a pink mane. "Honey, we can't stop again. We don't want to miss the plane, do we?" Her mother's voice was gentle. The little girl gave a dramatic sigh. Ben smiled again. Grace was the baby of the family, and with her large blue eyes and sweet nature, had won a firm place in both his and Lisa's hearts. He wouldn't mind having another child after this one, especially if it was a little girl like her. Lisa twisted around in her seat. "You'll be able to get a McDonald's at the airport, Grace. There are lots of places to eat there." "Great. That means we'll defo miss the plane. She's a shopaholic," mumbled 12-year-old Dylan. Grace looked at her brother, who sat beside her in the rear seats. "What's a shopaholic?" "Shopaholic, not shopaholic. It means you always want to buy things." "Don't." "You do. The first day when we went to London, you spent all your pocket money on that stupid unicorn, and then it was, 'Mummy, can I have that teddy? I really want that doll. Can I have some money for that dog? Please, Mummy," he squeaked in a girly voice. "Did not," Grace puffed out her cheeks. "You got things too. You got a new Switch and a load of games for it. And you got a whole suitcase of silly stuffed toys. I haven't. You have. Dylan, stop winding up your sister," warned Rowena. Dylan reached for the toy unicorn, grabbed it from Grace's hands and held it away from her. She let out a pitiful wail. "Give it back!" Ben looked up at the rear-view mirror again. "Dylan, give it to her." He turned his attention back to the motorway. The sudden flashing of red lights ahead confused him momentarily, and his brain was a fraction too slow to register that traffic was coming to a rapid halt. He jammed down the brake pedal with all the force he could muster. It was true what they said about time slowing. The brake lights ahead glowed like hot coals. Lisa gasped. A high-pitched squeak of terror came from Kathleen. They slid closer and closer to the rear of a pipe-carrying HGV. The honeycomb of metal poles that stuck out beyond the lorry bed filled the windscreen. The steering wheel was slippery with sweat, his foot feeble and inadequate as he drove it into the pedal. The car moved with a momentum of its own. His mind screamed for the vehicle to stop. The sound of his thudding heart now drowned out all other noises, the screeching of brakes, the children's horrified squeals. Finally, his prayers were answered, and the people carrier drew to a halt, mere centimetres from the rear of the vehicle. Oh, thank God! His words were swallowed by the ringing of metal on metal. Time was suspended, and in a blink of an eye he understood what was happening. A car had rear-ended his own and was propelling it forwards. Instinct turned him towards Lisa. The pain that ripped through his body was nothing compared to the utter terror as the windscreen imploded and a metal pole materialised on a trajectory with his wife's face. A Life for a Life. I hope you enjoy it.